Thank you for listening to the Conform to Christ podcast, where we seek to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. My name is George Mays, and I'm here with Jay Jones.
Good morning.
And this is Text Driven Tuesday.
Yep, and we've got a fill-in. My dad's filling in today for Larry. Mr. Larry couldn't be here, and so thanks, Dad, for coming in.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
if it's not shifted,
It's his fault.
then you'll know whose fault it was. Yep, we appreciate it though. Yep.
Well, we survived the night.
Yeah.
Did you guys get storms out your way?
So it barely rained. It rained a tiny bit, but we got the high winds. We got the big winds, and there's nothing to block the wind out where we live. I thought my gutters were gonna be ripped off my house.
Really?
Yeah, they were making. It was like 80-mile-an-hour straight line winds. It was crazy.
Yeah.
People don't even have a category for that. What's a hurricane wind? What's the classification? You may know. Now I got to look it up because we were pushing. I think we were pushing hurricane level winds with no tornado. Impressive.
The tornado sirens went off here in Lawton, but I guess they are programmed to go off when the winds reach like 70 or 75.
74 is a Category 1 hurricane.
Okay.
Welcome to the Great Plains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't see the final reports of how many tornadoes there were last night, but I know that there were several. Yeah. Yeah. It rained over at our house. It was windy, but it didn't seem nearly as windy as some people were getting it.
Did your trees survive? Because I know in the past you've had some tree problems.
Yeah, everything. No, see, with our tree, it doesn't fall when there's a lot of wind or when there's ice on it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, calm day, and a branch will just half the tree will just fall.
Weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it doesn't fall when you would expect it to.
Is there unpredictability in this world?
There is. Yeah, there certainly is. Yeah.
So,
well, it's a Monday morning for us,
mm-hmm.
but I brought you a little something, Jay.
Oh man,
I brought you a little something. I was thinking about you, and I just went and picked you up something.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see it.
Got your cream soda. Got your cream soda there.
Thank
Here's a bottle opener for you.
Oh, for the show?
Oh yeah.
What a show!
They only had one at Ace Hardware. I went over there this morning. They only had one with the real honey.
With real honey
in it. So I had to go over to Atwood's and picked up a couple of other.
Nice, thank you.
Cream sodas. Jerry, you a cream soda man?
Are you gonna join?
Would you like a cream soda?
Are you gonna join us for a cream soda during the show?
I've got a premium cream soda and a red cream soda. Which one would you like? Red. You want red? All
this
right.
is going to be a premium show, I think. Here, I'll open this for you guys.
Here, if you put the camera on Jay, and I'm gonna get up.
Hey, do I need to open that for him? There's a twist off. Here you go. There's one for you. Yep. Some people took me up on the challenge. They weren't disappointed either. This cream soda right here is called Sprecher Cream Soda, made with natural honey.
But you got to let me have a little bit of that.
Yeah,
I gotta try it. Yeah.
It is found at the Ace Hardware in Lawton. On the west side of Lawton.
But
hey, imagine tuning into this Christian podcast and you just tune in at this very moment right here. Hey, let me tell you about Ecclesiastes as I drink this beverage.
I brought you something else too, Jay. You don't have to have this right now, but I brought you
a snack pack.
I brought you a snack pack.
Thank you. Look at this. Yeah. Right here. If ever you run into like an atheist and they're just really hardened, you just pop open a snack pack, you give them a spoon, you say, you eat that right there.
Yeah.
And you tell me why evolution made that possible. You can't. There's no reason for it. There's no reason. The snack pack testifies to the goodness of God. What do you think of that cream soda?
That's pretty good.
You want a little bit more?
Yeah,
have a little bit more of that.
That's pretty good. I have to do a taste test between this premium.
I didn't know that honey.
Premium.
I didn't know you could do this type of stuff with honey. It's like God's natural sweetener.
This is why people tune in to watch us drinking cream soda on.
I know.
On the podcast.
We're just trying to help them to elevate their living, right? So
you keep issuing these challenges during the church service.
I know.
This is pretty good. Yeah. They only had one, and it was they've got that cooler at the counter, and I was looking, and it was pushed like it was pushed back, so I almost didn't see it. So there's I was thinking about you this morning.
I have no idea why this is at Ace Hardware, but it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, what are we talking about? What are we talking about this morning?
Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes, that's right. Ecclesiastes.
Chapter
We're in chapter 9. So when you first started talking to me about this passage, you were saying this is going to be a sermon all about death.
Right. Yeah.
But then when you really started studying it, you kind of changed the focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just the way the text is constructed, it just tells you what it's about. So it's another chiasm, or I've heard some people say chiasm. How you say it?
I say chiasm.
I say chiasm. We got another Augustine level conundrum, don't we?
Well, I mean, I guess if we're going to go with the Greek letter, it would be
chi.
I was taught that was key. Yeah.
Chiasm? Mm-hmm. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's chiasm.
I'm not going to change.
But people always say Cairo.
Yeah.
With that symbol, the old symbol for Christ, Cairo.
Yeah. I'm not going to change how I say it. It's chiasm. Well, hopefully, people that come on Wednesday nights to our Bible study and prayer meeting understood.
They should be familiar with that.
As soon as you talked about it, because we talk about chiasms in the book of Psalms all the time. But I know that last time that you taught a chiasm, which was what, chapter 3, 4?
I can't remember now.
You said you were asking.
Oh, it was on pursuing wealth for ultimate satisfaction. That whole section.
You said that you asked your kids about it like the next day, and they had no idea what you were talking about. You even passed out had a little handout.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But they got it now.
Hopefully, people.
No, they got it now. They won't forget.
Yeah.
They said they'll never forget.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but it's like a theological sandwich. That's it. What's the good part of a sandwich? It's not the bread, it's the meat, right? Or the Nutella. You ever had a Nutella sandwich?
I don't think I've ever had Nutella.
We're going to remedy that on show. Because Nutella's up there with God's great gifts like cream soda.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. For sure.
So we've had what have we had? We've had sushi on here and cream soda.
Yeah.
Next is going to be Nutella.
I tried some.
Are you going to make me a sandwich?
I tried some weird Mountain Dew once, I think. Oh, Dr. Pepper cream soda made its debut on here.
One of our members came up to me last week and said, "Could you tell Jay to please stop advertising?"
Because they keep going out and getting it? Is that why?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to help people out to find the good things.
Yeah.
The hidden good things, little gems.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to give you some Nutella. But this is a theological sandwich. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of cheesy, but you'll never forget it. The bread just sets up the main point. And if you have a Bible and you're in chapter 9, you can see really what brackets it is death. But more specifically, and I didn't want to get into like this during the sermon, because it's that what man doesn't know. So that's how verse 1 starts. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. And then you come over here to verse 12, for man does not know his time. So there's your textual signals. Death on the one piece of bread, death. The other piece of the bread, death. In the middle, the main point, live.
Okay.
That's it. So the main point is to live, but it's a good teaching method. It's a powerful teaching method the way it's laid out. So
it's all over the poetic literature of the Bible. Yeah. So you started your sermon with a little story. I think you've told me this.
I think
story
I told
before.
you that before privately. Yeah.
But it certainly got my kids' attention.
Yeah. So I almost did a little Easter egg for my beloved Angela. She would have got it. No one else would. I almost started it with these words. Let me tell you about the time I almost died. Do you know what reference that is? That's a movie.
Yeah.
With Denzel Washington.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
I'm not going to give it away because someone, if you can go search that for yourself and then you can watch the movie.
All right.
But no, I just, what did I say? Let me tell you about the day I was most alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which is true. So the day I was most alive was the day I almost died. Yep. So was duck hunting and fell through some ice, almost got sucked under the water. The river was pulling me under. And last second before I went up under the ice, my friend he laid on his stomach and he had put a little pole out, grabbed my hand, pulled me up out of the water. It's like single digits out. So now I'm like, all right, I get out. I'm like, okay, well now I'm going to freeze to death. So I got to just start running. So I just started running, ran, equivalent of probably, I don't know, close to 2 miles, maybe a little less. Yeah, we got back to the car. Obviously I had to take all the wet clothes off and try to curl up in the heater. Yeah. Made it home though, and like I said, do you think I cared about what was going on in the world?
Right.
No. I just sit there in the fire with Angie and my kids, with Drake and Brooke, and Angie made chicken and noodles, best meal I ever had. Had coffee, best coffee of all time, because I was just alive. I was just like living in that moment.
Yeah.
Schoolwork, I was in seminary at the time. Didn't think about it. Who cares? It's just, I was just alive. Wasn't living in the past, wasn't living in the future. And death can do that, I really think this one reason why when veterans return from their deployment, now they adjust over time. But initially, I think the first year is really hard because when veterans return, I guess, now the deployments aren't really the same. Back in the older times, the Iraq, Afghanistan war, so you run into those veterans. I think one thing they struggle with is that everybody lives like they're immortal here. So a lot of things aren't taken very seriously that I think they see as very serious. So, they would be slightly offended by something a civilian does, but they see it as an absolute betrayal, as if it's life or death itself. And I think one reason for that is because they live for a whole year as if they could die that day.
Yeah.
So when they come back and nobody lives like that, it becomes very, very frustrating. That's why sometimes they'll stand in like Walmart or something and they'll just be like, I can't take it, because people are living in a fantasy world where things aren't life and death. But that kind of wears off. But death is a powerful teacher to get you to actually live. You know what I mean? Like if you got a cancer diagnosis and they told you, George, this is your last year to live.
Right.
You'd probably live different.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we talked about this when you were in chapter 7, that it's better to go to the house of mourning than go to the house of feasting. It's the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, because it teaches us.
Yeah.
It teaches us and reminds us of what this passage is also talking about.
That's right. Yep.
So let's have you read the passage, and then we'll jump in.
Okay. Switch over to the screen, my screen, Dad. There we go. But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. It is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices, to him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears as he who shuns an oath. This is an evil that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also the heart of the children of men are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live. And after that they go to the dead. But he who is joined with all the living has hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. Go eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Let your garments always be white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. Again I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge. But time and chance happen to them all. For man does not know his time. Like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so are the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them. There you go.
All right. Very good. Here, try this.
What is that one?
This is Fitz's Premium Cream Soda. You can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah, it's very.
There's
more sugar.
Definitely, you can have that one.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That one's very overly sweet almost.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is you can definitely tell
more cream naturally. Like yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna have to just go to Ace Hardware to get my cream soda.
I know. It's for real. Like, hey, can you order these things by the case in here or what?
Right.
I know you sell like nuts and bolts, but I'm here for the cream soda.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking at this as a chiasm. So we're gonna look at the ends first, and then we'll look at the center because that's the main point. That's the heart of the heart of the passage. And why is this so important? I mean, this is not, like I said, not the first time that he's talked about death. He talked about it back in chapter 7. What's he trying to communicate to us?
Well, I mean, this is like maybe the 5th time. I think it's the 5th time that he said something that's very similar to what's in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I think he's trying to get people to understand. Look, if you just read through Ecclesiastes and maybe you don't slow down a little bit, you're going to come away with the impression that life is meaningless, which is definitely not what he's communicating.
Right.
He communicates the vanity of life, the meaningless of life, if pursued under the sun, as if God's not there. Like there's not a God, or or if there is, he doesn't care about anything. So what he's trying to get us to see is, even though the world is filled with all these perplexities, like the wicked prospering, and so many times the righteous suffering, things are backwards in that sense. So he commended joy. That was last week. Well, this week he's doing the same thing again. It's like, I guess this is more repetitive to make this explicit. But this time he goes at it from death. So he's already talked about the perplexity of life as far as things seem unfair to us. And so he says, here's what I commend, joy. So if you're interested in that, you can listen to last week's. This week, it's interesting, same thing again, but even more emphatic, it seems, because when we get to that last point, the main point, he gives 5 commands, but it's bracketed with death. So it seems that he wants people to live, like he wants them to live today. Like while you're alive today, it's time to live. Yeah. So,
all right. Well, let's look at these, the bread portions.
Let's check out the bread.
The bread. We've got verses 1 through 6, the certainty of death.
You got it.
And verses 11 through 12 is the unpredictability of
death. Yeah.
When you got to it, you said life and death.
Well, yeah. He sets it up.
So there's both, right?
Unpredictability of life. You'll see. He'll say, and then he'll bring in death to say, hey, the life's unpredictable, meaning you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Right.
When you're going to punch your ticket.
Okay, so the certainty of death, we see this in verses 1 through 6. We all know that we're going to die.
Yeah.
And we talked about this when we went through chapter 7, that we find ways to avoid it. Or you brought out in the sermon, make light of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you like that guy's quote?
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
I don't really, subscribe or anything, but
you gonna read it?
Yeah. So this guy, New York writer, he wrote in the Times. He wanted his body to go to science, to be sent to Harvard after he died, and this is his quote: "Because my parents wanted me to go there, and this is the only way I'm getting in."
Yeah.
I gotta appreciate the humor.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do stuff like that.
Probably a century ago, I guess, maybe a little bit longer, people would die like in their house. Like you'd be, I don't know, eating breakfast and grandma's in the other room,
right.
Dying.
Right.
But now we ship, the older generation to nursing homes or to hospitals, and they die in these, kind of cold, bland buildings, and we don't have to witness it. And so we can kind of separate ourselves from what's going on, over in the nursing home. Or we just kind of entertain ourselves. Like we're just so wrapped up in binge watching, the next show, and we just kind of ignore this reality that's always lurking, it's always creeping behind us, right?
Yeah. Solomon takes a better approach, a better route.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't be obsessed over when your death is to where it would cause you anxiety.
Right.
That's not the point at all.
Yeah.
The point of it is to do the exact opposite. It's to motivate you to live. Like I said, if you got a cancer diagnosis, you'd live.
Yeah.
Well, Solomon's telling you here, I've got a death diagnosis for you. You're living as if you're immortal. You're not, and you need to understand that you're not, so that you can actually get on with living.
Yeah. So this happens to everyone, right? There's no distinction between the classes.
Yeah, this is kind of what he does is he sets it up by touching on the sovereignty of God again in verse 1. That the righteous and the wiser in their deeds are in the hand of God, and we don't need to spend a lot of time here. But this is first 8 chapters. Sovereignty of God is sprinkled all throughout this book, big time. Time to be born, a time to die. There's a time for everything under the sun. Well, God appoints that time, and you don't. And so here again, he's reiterating that the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. That's a good encouragement for those. A righteous would be one that is in communion with God, covenant communion with God, right? That's a good reminder, because he also then just brings right back up that, and this is a strange construction, as sometimes it is, I think, coming from ancient Hebrew into English, but whether it is love or hate, man does not know, both are before him. Seems to me there that what he's saying is you can't look into the world and pick out who God favors. It's a big mistake to try.
Yeah.
You can't look at a guy and say, oh, God loves that guy because he's rich.
Yeah.
Now, prosperity preachers would tell you could,
right,
but you can't.
Yeah.
I'm really convinced that now more than ever, that we're talking about an entirely different religion. Sometimes I would think the prosperity gospel is a perversion of. It's like a flawed version of Christianity. I just think now that it's just a completely different religion.
Yeah,
because it's completely opposite of so many things we see in the Bible. Here's one: whether God's love or His hate is on someone, or His wrath, you can't pick it out, right? God might be setting up a great blessing for someone. Like Joseph, you'd be like, God hates that man,
right? Yeah.
The terrible things keep happening to this one guy. It must be because he's done something bad, and God's punishing him. And the whole time we know it's not.
Yeah.
God's setting him up to not only bless his life, but to save his covenant people. Amazing story.
Yeah.
But so you can't do that. So the good reminder before that is the righteous are in the hand of God.
Yeah.
So even if you look in the world and you see somebody suffering, don't presume it's because God doesn't love them. I think that's important.
You mentioned you were mentioning bad guys and good guys in the Bible, and you mentioned Josiah, good king, dies young, and Josiah, my Josiah, looks over at Julia and says, "I'm a good guy. Is Jay telling about me?"
That's perfect. I love that. He's really paying attention.
Oh, he was paying attention to everything that you were saying yesterday. Yeah, he was.
Tell everyone how old he is.
He'll be 4 next week.
Yeah. Don't take your kids out of the sermon,
right?
Because they're hearing more than you actually think they are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I used to, when Drake was little like that, he'd be down playing and doing stuff in the pew, and I'd be like, "What was the preacher talking about?" And he would tell me. I'd be like, "How are you listening to that? Like how?" Yeah.
Yeah, Josiah was, I don't even know what he was doing, scribbling or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
I'm a good guy. Is Jay telling about me?
Hopefully not.
Yeah. We use that. I used the idea of God's sovereignty last night because Abigail is really afraid of storms, and so she was really high stress last night, and I was just trying to remind her God is in control of these storms, even if some people might think this is bad parenting, like even if a tornado comes and our whole house blows away, God is still in control. That's God's sovereignty, and the day of our death is determined by God. We can't alter that.
Yeah,
our day is set.
Yeah,
and so that shouldn't be a morbid thought. That should be an encouraging thought.
Right.
Like there's nothing that can touch me.
Right.
Until God has decreed that I die.
Right.
It was, what was it, Whitfield? It said,
immortal.
We're immortal. We're immortal.
We're immortal until the appointed time of our death. Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that we should live carelessly because God ordains the means as well as the ends, right?
Yeah.
So if you walk out into a busy street without looking and you get hit by a truck, that was God's ordained means to accomplish the ends.
Yeah.
Right? But it should be encouraging that God is sovereign. And that really that encompasses all things. No one, there's no person that's outside of this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was a Matthew Henry quote. He because what he's saying is in this way where you can't look into the world and see this and pick it. I mean, we get told after the fact who is favored, but if you were just to look, and Matthew Henry has a lot of insights. I regret not going to him.
I've noticed you going to him more. These last sermons.
Well, because I've been very surprised how insightful he is.
Isn't that wild? I found the same thing to be true.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know why it is that we neglect Matthew Henry. I think it's because you can just find his stuff for free.
I think that's why.
Like all of his commentaries,
they're all free.
You can find all of them for free. Like Bible, like doesn't Logos come with
Logos,
with Matthew Henry? Like it's free, and I think that we often disdain it because we're like, well, if it's just for free, then it can't be that good. But it's really good. Yeah, if you have access to Matthew Henry, don't neglect it. He says some really insightful, helpful things.
Yeah, I think it's the first commentary I ever had.
Yeah, that I remember. I got a concise one from Julia's grandmother after she died.
Yeah,
that may have been my first commentary.
And we also think that modern scholars should be more insightful. And that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, that chronological snobbery.
And that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, right.
But it's I mean, he's got a lot of good stuff. This is what he says: there's little differences between the conditions of the righteous and the wicked in this world, meaning life under the sun. There's one event to both. Is David rich? So is Nabal. Is Joseph favored by his prince? So is Haman. Is Ahab killed in battle? So is Josiah. So good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. Same things happen to all of them. So you can't pick it out.
Yeah.
And then we come to verse 4. So we're not going to go through every verse. If you're listening, you're like, why aren't you guys like hitting every verse in detail? Well, I mean, we're not going to completely rehash the sermon.
Right.
So if you want that, you can go back and check it out. It should be posted sometime this week. Don't know when, but verse 4 is an amazing verse.
Yeah.
It's not one
it's kind of a difficult verse.
I really want to print some of these crazy verses out and hang them up in my office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like they need their time to shine.
Uh-huh.
You know, they've
like those inspirational posters
yes,
with like a nice sunset. Better as a living dog than a dead lion.
Yes. Inspirational motivation. Yeah. A living dog is better than a dead lion. What a verse, man. Yeah. Incredible. And the point is, if you're alive, you have hope, and the hope is that you can start living. You can start living correctly. You can start seeking and loving God. It's a perfect verse.
There's kind of a connection to last week's sermon with these, or was it the week before? It was the week before the wicked.
Yeah,
the wicked. They often would, they'd go to the temple and everyone they were wicked, but when they died, people forgot that they were wicked and they celebrated their lives. It's better to be a living dog than one of these dead wicked people.
Yep, that's right. So dogs back then were like a better way would think of it would be like a rat. How we view a rat. Like a rat comes in your house, you're gonna like try to smack it, get it out of there. And that's the same thing for dogs. Dogs back then in this context, they weren't like household pets.
They were more scavengers, weren't they?
Yeah, like they're like feral. They're like feral, like coyotes almost. Obviously, like they had dogs during that time. People have been using dogs for a long time, but they're not household pets.
Yeah.
And so to be, like you said, a poor person, you're better than a dead lion, meaning like, the prestigious, you're still alive. So a great verse, I think. Great reminder. But it's easily forgotten. Living know that they're going to die. And then these verses can get a little confusing.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of hit on verse 5 because there's some theology there that could confuse some people. The living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Because we know from other passages that the dead they go to a place and they're conscious. So what's he talking about here? How do we square this?
Verse 5 and 6, I believe, are not even in reference to what the afterlife will be like. I think verse 5 and 6 are in reference to what you could have done or didn't do in life, what you left undone. It's more about life under the sun. Okay, so there's not second chances. You're not coming back. You're not going to influence anything from the grave. When you die, like it's locked in who you were. There's not even going to be a chance to repent. He doesn't mention that here, but we know that later.
No ghost.
No ghost. You're not reaching out from the grave and telling your loved ones you really care about them. In whatever subtle ways,
influencing events.
And that's kind of over. You take that in with verse 6, and you can see that I think a little better. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have. I think the key phrase: no more share in all that is done under the sun. So I think that's really the point of verse 5.
Okay.
While you're alive, you still have opportunity. You know when you're dead, you don't know. The reality is here. You're just gone.
Yeah. Some good hermeneutical principles. Don't get your theology just from one random verse.
Right.
And I'm sure there's people out there that go to this verse and say, look, soul sleep. There's the dead know nothing, right?
I don't think his point is to elaborate at all really on the nature of, life after death, or, even the wicked have eternal life after death. It's more, I think, appropriately called eternal death, but he's not deviating and going to that sphere.
Yeah.
Now, he probably, many people in the Old Testament, they didn't have as much revelation. I don't know how much Solomon knew about Sheol, the abode of the dead, which has two, as we learn in the New Testament, there's two areas. You think of Sheol as the spiritual plane, the spiritual realm. It's where you go when you die. And we know there's Abraham's side, that's paradise. That's what Jesus says to the thief on the cross, they would be in paradise. Then there's this place of suffering.
I had someone ask me about that last week, and I used the illustration of a house. Sheol is the house, but there's 2 rooms in the house.
Yeah.
So everyone goes to the place of the dead. Everyone goes to Sheol. Context determines which room they're going to, because Jacob in Genesis says that you're going to bring my head down to Sheol. I don't think that he's saying I'm going to hell.
Right.
He's saying I'm going to die.
You got it. So here, I don't think it's really a commentary. I don't think he's really getting into that at all. It's more trying to get you to see you have no more share in anything that's done under the sun. So you should take note of that.
Yeah. You gave us a really encouraging thought from this passage, Jay. We're going to be forgotten.
Isn't that great to know that? I mean, good night. This is like the second time he's told us that.
Yeah.
To consider that, after you die, the memory of them is soon forgotten. Very, very true.
I like that quote that you read.
Yeah.
If we knew how quickly people will forget us, we wouldn't care as much about what they think about us. Right? And it's true. I mean, how many relatives do we even think about that have died?
Right.
I'll think about my grandfather, but I hardly ever think about my great-grandfather.
Right.
And I know next to nothing about my great-great-grandfather.
Right.
Like, we're talking just a few generations, and no one even remembers who you are.
Yeah, you're just a name on a stone at that point. It's kind of crazy to think about. Very humbling when you realize that in the grand scheme of things, and in how God is unfolding the history of the universe, our part in it is so minuscule. Even not to say that we don't have important parts to play where we are in God's plan.
Yeah,
but it's so very small.
Yeah, in the big picture, even big historical figures. I mean, you think of people like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, and really they're just historical names. There's no one alive that remembers that person. Right.
Yeah.
They only know what they read about in history books.
That's right.
All their relations are gone, and we don't remember them. Yeah. And this happens to everybody.
Yep.
It's something that we should take to heart.
Yeah, death is absolute certainty.
But that's the top of the sandwich.
Yep.
Now the bottom of the sandwich.
Yep.
Is that there's an unpredictability to death.
Yeah. So if you're following along, as we said, this is bracketing the main point. So you'll have to skip down in your Bible to verse 11 and 12. So you'll say, hey, we're not skipping that portion in the middle. We'll come back.
Yeah.
So the unpredictability of death, and he really gets to that by talking about the unpredictability of life. The key phrase, again, is life under the sun. Under the sun means life after Genesis 3. I really think that's what it means when he uses it. The fallen world, the broken world after the fall. And it's very perplexing and completely unpredictable. Things don't work. And he gives five illustrations, short little quick ones, to show you eventually getting to death, to show that death is unpredictable, but just life itself's unpredictable.
And I put in parentheses, it's not just unpredictable, it's unfair.
Yeah. Yeah. We have seen that repeatedly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I think people will so struggle even with Christianity, as they can see the unfairness in the world and they'll blame God for it all. And they place the blame in the wrong place.
I'm just thinking out loud, so who knows what's going to come out of my mouth in just a second. I think this would have a direct impact on our thoughts about social justice. The social justice movement wants to right all these wrongs, and this is the way that the world should be. Like everyone should have their equal share, and everyone should have there shouldn't be any oppressors and oppressed, and
right.
There shouldn't be rich and poor. Everybody should just be the same. And they try to work towards this, but it's just going to be futile. It's just going to be chasing after the wind, as Solomon would say, because of the way that the world works under the sun.
The world's broken.
Yeah.
Right? And so here, in a way, what you have in secular humanism, materialistic Darwinism, all of these things are the same. We should just come up with one term, how they all intertwine. But they form a false gospel in that what they're trying to get is new creation apart from Christ,
right?
Which is satanic.
Yeah.
You cannot get new creation apart from Christ.
Right.
It's good, and those desires for that should reveal to you actually the fallen nature of the world, the reality that the Bible is true. Because there's no explanation in Darwinism why anyone should even want to seek that.
Right.
It should be pure domination. It should be Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
That should be the ideal epitome of humanity. We should all become Genghis Khans. But that's just a little leftover grace that God has left in each human to remember this world is not the world God made. And it's not the way that God made it because we broke it. He didn't break it. We broke it. And that breaking, it just infiltrates every single sphere. There's not anything in this universe untouched by that fall. And we see it in all kinds of these things that just are unfair. They don't make sense. And we would be wrong to blame God for that.
Yeah.
Because we are the ones who did that. He mentioned that, and there was we didn't touch on it, but in the beginning of this chapter about the men's hearts being wicked, a little echo of Genesis 6, pre-flood, what God says.
Yeah, a great description of humanity, that our hearts are full of evil and madness. Madness is in their hearts while they live and after they die.
Yeah. Like you are mad. I wonder, if you could go back in time and be pre-fall and see people today operating, it would be pure madness.
Yeah.
Their minds aren't even functioning as a human mind. They're mad.
Yeah.
We don't view ourselves that way.
Right.
It's kind of crazy.
What is it? Proverbs 30 says, "I'm too stupid to be a man." We think of ourselves.
That's one we can print off.
That's right. We think of ourselves really highly, and we lose sight of the wickedness that resides in the human heart and how we are.
Yeah,
we're insane. We're insane because we try to live in this world apart from God, and we're trying to fix it. Trying to fix it, and yet Solomon says, "Well, that's not the way that the world works."
Yeah, it's not the race. The race is not to the swift, and we think it would always be that way every time. Every time the fastest should win a race, and it's just not that's just not the way it goes.
No, Jay. Everyone gets a participation trophy.
Yeah.
We're all winners, Jay.
We're all winners. That's why the race doesn't go to the swift.
That's right.
Because everyone wins. Solomon, he was so ahead of his time.
Yeah.
So, things happen. That's the point. Like, things happen. Runners trip. There have been several of those you can look at. This one, I think, was one of the most egregiously sad. Lindsay Jacobellis.
Yeah.
How can she's 10 seconds ahead in a race, and she falls at the end, and she loses the Olympics. Takes her like 2 more Olympics to win. But she was by far the best athlete, by far the fastest.
Yeah.
Man, it's the world.
Yeah.
We say life happens. That's what we say, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Army, they say something else. I can't say it on the show. Right? They actually have a term for the world that I'll share with you later.
Okay.
It's an acronym.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, Dad? It's actually, now that I think of it, it's the first time I thought of this. It perfectly describes the world as Solomon describes. It begins with an F.
Okay.
And it's how many letters? I can't remember how many letters. You know what I'm talking about? There's a bar in Lawton named after this word. I'll share it with you offline because it's inappropriate for this podcast.
But I look forward to it, Jay.
Yeah. And as soon as I say it, my dad will be like, I know that word. It's an acronym because everything in the Army has to be an acronym or you can't communicate. So annoying. The battle is not to the strong. The strongest army should always win, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They just do not.
Yeah.
God has providentially arranged these strange things like the Revolutionary War, where this, we were just a bunch of misfits in comparison. This would be like today, we're the superpower of the world. It'd be like us getting beat by who is an insignificant. I want to say France. I will, just to offend them. France. Have they ever won a war?
Just to take a dig.
Has France ever won a war? Now, that's kind of mean of me because they actually helped us in the Revolutionary War. Do you know that?
Yeah, they did.
So maybe I won't use France. We'll give them a pass.
Okay.
We'll say Canada. Canada. Does Canada even have an army?
That's fair.
I feel like we're Canada's army. That's what I feel like. Canada.
They've helped in wars.
If that's what you want to call it, I guess.
I guess.
Huh, Dad? Sorry.
Just alienating people left and right.
I'm sure they have like some elite soldiers. They're special forces, but
what was that? What was that plan that was just recently declassified or whatever? The plan to invade Canada.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
What do they have there that we need? Maple syrup or what? Is that their main resource?
Got to get some of that milk in a bag.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh man, I'm working. We're fine with scorching Canada because they put a lot of pastors in jail during COVID. So we're just gonna pile it on to Canada till they repent.
Okay. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Old Trudeau. Do you know people think he's Fidel Castro's illegitimate son?
Yeah, I've seen that theory.
Crazier things have happened.
Yeah. I guess.
Like a president who has to have like footsteps on the ground that he can follow and an earpiece so that he can know what to say. Crazier things.
We are really chasing rabbits, but I can't go on without asking you if you saw the interview with Biden the other day.
I didn't. Where
he was asked about the classified documents in his garage. And the reporter, he asked, Trump did this, but and you said that this was irresponsible. Was there any irresponsibility here? And Biden said, well, there's levels of irresponsibility.
Of course. Yeah. That's right.
All right, let's get back to the text.
I was about to go off on a big old rabbit trail,
Yeah.
About Obama, like his consciousness being like wirelessly transferred into Biden's brain.
Yeah. Biden just wearing an earpiece. We'll have to show that clip. On Friday.
Yeah.
We'll have to show that clip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bread not to the wise, riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge. So he just keeps kind of going on with these. There was this social experiment that Drake told me about that fit with the fifth one, favor with those with knowledge. Just how poorly we are, like why does this happen? Well, it's because we're just incredibly flawed. The social experiment, they put 6 people in this room and they had like 10 to 15 minutes to all talk to each other. to know, like, hey, what do you do for a living? I do this, I do that, whatever. So all of them ranked the enlisted Marine. So he's not an officer, enlisted Marine. All ranked him last, and they ranked the lady with this PhD number one. All of them. Well, so they all taken an IQ test before. They revealed the results, and the Marine was actually at the top, not the very top, but he was like one or two. The PhD lady was the dumbest. So, but she had these justifications. Well, there's other types of intelligence, like social. There's like social intelligence. There's emotional.
She's street smarts.
There's emotional intelligence, and this test just doesn't include things like emotional intelligence. Meanwhile, the crayon eater's over here like 3 times as intelligent as her. Crayon eater. That's a term of endearment for a Marine.
Is it endearment?
Yeah. Well, if you don't actually like somebody, you won't poke fun like that.
That's true.
This is an in-house fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my preaching professor, he would always tell us, you will never hear of the best preachers. Like you'll never hear of them. You'll hear of, these celebrity pastors. But there are faithful men all across the world that you'll never hear about. Mm-hmm. And they are probably the best preachers in the world. And it's just the unpredictability of life. Mm-hmm. The place where you minister is going to be a factor, and associations that you develop, and some people are going to have the opportunities to speak at big conferences and travel around the world, and then there's going to be this faithful Chinese pastor in an underground church that is just an amazing expositor, and you're just never going to hear about it.
Never,
yeah. We've talked about it before. The small town bivocational pastor is never going to be the president of the SBC.
Right. Mm-hmm. Never. Right. You got to make connections. You got to rub elbows, and and what's maybe true is that many of these guys they have no time for that.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in making connections and trying to elevate myself. They're too busy living.
Yeah.
Just got to live their life and preach.
Yeah.
But that's, several repeated examples to set it up. Anyway, all these people, time and chance happens to them all. Same event happens, time and chance happens, and man does not know his time. So life's unpredictable, and death's unpredictable. Yeah. You never know when death's going to take you.
Yeah.
Chance here, I had to look it up because, I don't believe in chance. Anyone who believes in the sovereign God doesn't believe in chance. So what is the word chance? It's one of those translations that it makes sense in English to say time and chance happens to all. Mm-hmm. But when you dig down into it philosophically, it doesn't make sense as a translation.
Yeah.
And a literal wooden translation of that word is an occurrence or a happening.
Yeah.
Happening kind of sounds eerie. A time and a happening. The happening happened.
Yeah.
A time and an occurrence happens, meaning something suddenly happened that you couldn't predict. Not to mean that it was random and outside of God's control.
Right.
It's not what's being communicated. We say stuff happens. Life happens.
Yeah, I think we can, from our perspective, we could say it's chance.
Yeah.
It just happens.
It just seems to have happened.
On the on God's side, it's all part of His sovereign purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Murphy's Law. That's not like a random thing. Right. Mm-hmm. If something goes wrong, it wasn't just by the flip of a coin.
Yeah, right.
Chance doesn't do anything anyway. It has no agency at all.
Yeah.
It's just a measure, like a probabilities.
Right.
So, yeah, time and chance. I mean, what he's really saying is, you could die today.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's saying.
Right.
So it happens to all.
Yeah.
No one knows. If you knew, it wouldn't be unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not, and he compares it to a fish that's taken in a net. If a fish knew the net was there coming, it would avoid the net. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole point of a net and how it functions for a fisherman is that he can throw it in and scoop the fish up and get them because it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Same thing with catching a bird.
Did you get any ducks that day that you almost died?
Man, you know what? I don't think we did. I think it was an all-around terrible day.
I
think it was all-around terrible day. Yep. We did have some really, really great days there. It's worth going up back there just for that.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing spot. You got to pay the price to get in, though, right? You got to walk and carry all your gear in that far.
And maybe die.
Which is maybe why it's awesome, because no one goes there. Yeah, and maybe die. Yeah, you never know.
it just all happens by chance. It's
so
unpredictable.
It probably sounds completely crazy for people to say you walked back on a frozen river, but let me just tell you, that river, we go through it when it's not frozen on a mud boat. It has to be able to skim, like hydroplane, because it's so shallow. In many parts, it's ankle deep. Yeah. When it's real deep, it'd be like waist deep. And like sand dunes, kind of like the Canadian River up here, or maybe the Red River. But it has more water in it.
Yeah,
it flows pretty good. Not that spot.
Yeah,
that spot was deep.
Yeah. All right, so death is certain, but it's also unpredictable. You don't know when you know it's going to happen, but you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But now we get to the meat, right? The heart of the passage.
Yeah.
This is what the passage is really trying to communicate.
I got a little sidebar. You just made me think of it. Sorry. The command to live is the meat.
Yeah.
So there was this guy in my preaching class. Okay.
Okay.
He was a good dude. I really liked him. He's from the Black Church.
Okay.
And Black Church's got their own style. And I'm not knocking it, because I told you I get down with their worship style. I like it. So he'd say, it's just something my friends say, because it's a good reminder. It's actually a good reminder. But sometimes he'd almost start teaching the class, because he had been a pastor a long time. He's an older guy. And Dr. Aubrey wouldn't interrupt him. He'd just let him say. He'd say, you got to have a milk and you got to have a meat. You got to have the milk and you got to have a meat, because you got different. You got new believers. You got old believers.
Right.
So you got to have something for both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll never forget it now.
Yeah.
Huh? We elevated your preaching game today, too.
Right. All right. So the heart of this passage is the command to live. So in light of the fact that death is certain and that it's unpredictable, that it could happen today, right? I mean, by the time people hear this podcast, both of us could be dead.
Right.
I mean, we just don't know because the unpredictability, especially in this building.
Hey, it did survive that crazy wind, man.
It did, yeah. Did you look at the
I didn't look at the roof yet.
Okay.
Yeah, remind me when this is over, because I'm suspecting it's missing some shingles. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a certainty. That's
one of the certainties of life.
Yeah, there's no unpredictability there. So in light of that, we're commanded to live. And so we've got verses 7 through 10 that are getting at that.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's 5 commands here. This is I thought this was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
This is just interesting. And I went back and looked them up, because I'm going to say, okay, if I'm going to say there are 5 commands, I'm going to be sure. There are 5 imperative commands.
Okay.
And it's go, eat, drink, enjoy, and do. Go, eat, drink, enjoy, and do.
Okay.
And so I said, look, this is God's commands. You don't like them, don't take it up with me. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they're non-negotiable.
Okay.
If it's a command.
Yeah.
Right? Like you should be doing it if God tells you to.
All right.
So go here. That's how he starts. You could almost put an exclamation point. It's like a wake-up call type of a thing. Command. You're living as if you have an infinite number of days. That's kind of what I thought. You're living like you have an infinite number of days. You don't. Death's certain. It's unpredictable. So you need to wake up. Go. Stop sulking in your, whatever, and stop being unforgiving and reconcile to people. Don't live in the past. People get stuck in the past. Don't live as if you got an infinite number of days to do whatever you always wanted to do. You need to start living in the present. I had a good phone call this past week. I'll share this because I think this is this is another good piece of like advice. My friend was a pro baseball player. I don't know when his dad gave him this advice, but it's good advice for baseball players, but just in life in general, it's really good. If you go 0 for 5, well, the next day you got a hit. You can't be stuck in the past, or you're going to go 0 for 10.
Yeah.
That's how people get in slumps. So he said his dad told him one time, he served him well in a whole variety of spheres. He said, be where you are. That's just good. That's just good wisdom. And that's really what Psalm has been saying numerous times to us over and over.
I think Jim Elliot, Jim Elliot, the missionary, I think he's got a quote, wherever you are, be there. I think that's
there you go, man. And this is good biblical wisdom, really.
Yeah.
They meant the people who came up with it. Elliot probably was. I don't know if my friend's dad was, but Solomon has the same advice for us. So that's the first command. Live today. Go. The second one is eat. Not a problem for most people, but I think maybe doing it as he says, maybe, which this means you need to slow down and enjoy food as a gift. That God has given the gift of food, and we take it for granted.
Right.
Not for granted in the sense that it sustains us. Maybe we do that. We forget that we can't live without God providing for us. Would have been more apparent, I think, in a culture that relies on rain.
Yeah.
And they don't have modern agriculture, things like that. Then you might be more aware that you can't survive unless God takes care of you. But in this sense, food's meant to be enjoyed. We forget that all. I mean, we forget it.
Yeah.
Or we enjoy it apart from giving thanks to the one who made it enjoyable. So God commands you today to slow down and enjoy what you're eating. This is like extremely profound and super easy to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think we're raised to not. We're kind of conditioned to not slow down and enjoy our food because we've got all these time restrictions.
Yeah.
You go to school and it's lunchtime and you've got this block of time to eat lunch, right?
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of conditioned over those years. I gotta eat fast so I can go
do whatever I'm gonna do.
I gotta go to recess.
Yeah.
I don't know, the longer I'm over here eating, less time I can go out on the playground.
Yeah. So I gave the show dog challenge during this
show dog.
During this portion the sermon.
I have yet to go out to Carnegie and go to this theater.
You really need to remedy that. So coordinate through your community group some babysitting time. That's what community groups are for, George.
Are you not going to watch my kids for me, Jay? Hey, you're issuing the challenge, so I challenge you to watch my kids.
I thought I was going to be the one to drive you to.
Oh, really?
To
okay.
Carnegie.
I gotcha. Yeah. Have you ever been to Coney Islander? You've never been to Coney Islander? It's in Tulsa.
It's in Tulsa.
Yeah.
Okay. I will have to try it.
It's. I mean, I haven't had these show dogs, but I have talked to Philip, and Philip loves Coney Islander, and he says that the show dogs are the closest that he's found to Coney Islander. But I don't think that he thinks they're on the same level.
Well, this place has the added feature of being a movie theater.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
You know, Coney, do you need to go? You good? Oh, I was asking if you needed to go. I thought you needed to go. Liberty Theater, oldest continual running theater in Oklahoma, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there, you got your popcorn, whatever, like a normal movie theater. But then they have these hot dogs they've made in there for, I don't know, the past 100 years. Who knows? Like the place is old. They're amazing. I don't know what they do, but they're like chili cheese dogs.
Yeah.
I didn't believe the hype. So for years I didn't go. Like Justin and Amanda Waltrip, I think they told us. I'm like, well, I'm going to drive an hour to go to the movie theater.
Right.
They're like, no, trust me, you got to do it.
Okay.
So I did it, and I was like, they're right.
All right.
It's worth it.
All right. I'll have to try it. But the next time you're in Tulsa, I don't know why you go to Tulsa, but the next time you go to Tulsa, you need to try Coney Islander. And it has to be, there's several locations, but there's the original. You got to go to the original.
Okay. I'll go there. Original Meaning that it's probably the greasiest.
It's greasiest. It's an original recipe. The others have kind of deviated from the original recipe, and you got to go to the first one.
All right.
Yeah.
So eat.
Yeah. With
Slow
joy.
down.
With joy.
With joy. Eat with joy and thanksgiving in your heart. God already approves what you do. That's what he says. But he also adds the third, drink your wine with a merry heart.
Better watch out, Jay. This is a Baptist podcast.
Yeah. I just can't jump through, I can't do hermeneutical gymnastics and just get away from what's plainly said. I'm sorry. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Right. A wine is something that can get you drunk. Hence the warnings.
Right.
Don't be drunk.
Yeah.
So I don't buy into this idea that, what is it usually? It's like,
you said something really funny yesterday. You said something.
What did I say?
And it really threw me off. Julia was looking at me because I was laughing. I was trying not to laugh because you were talking about Noah.
Yeah.
Like Noah, he got drunk.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Lot, and you said Lot got drunk, and a lot of crazy stuff happened to him, and that just really got me. I was like, some crazy stuff did happen.
I know. I was trying to keep it as PG as I could.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I said just go. I don't know how. Go read the story for yourself.
I don't know how to preach that passage.
Yeah. What kind of strong warnings does God give against drunkenness?
Yeah.
Go read the story of Lot.
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah. There's passages in Proverbs that warn against drunkenness. Paul warns against drunkenness. We love John MacArthur, but I think some of his weakest teachings I've heard have been on alcohol, and some of the hoops that he jumps through to try to get around.
Well, I'll tell you why I think he's there, and I believe it's because he's been given inaccurate background information.
Really?
Yeah. So I even heard it at seminary by my professor, and I told you I tried to calculate it. Would it be possible for me to get drunk on what my professor is telling me wine was back then? And it would not be possible.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be possible. I couldn't. In fact, when I did the calculation, I could not drink that amount of water in 1 hour. Just water. So I couldn't break God's command to not be drunk because I couldn't even physically drink enough of the substance. It'd be impossible.
Yeah.
So yes, they had fermented wine and they drank it at parties.
Yeah.
And of course they probably had some wine that was lightly fermented, mainly water, just because they didn't have a lot of clean drinking water.
Right.
I grant it. It's always been that way through history.
Yeah.
Some people in Europe, Martin Luther, didn't have clean drinking water. All he drank was beer. Now he wasn't drinking like probably these stout beers we have today, maybe occasionally, but that was like really watered down stuff meant to kill any impurities. But that's all he drank. Yeah, they've had that stuff back then, but they also had regular wine, which is how you could get drunk and sin against God.
Yeah.
So the command here is to drink the good kind that you'd have at a party, right? It's seen as a gift from God. Psalm 104, 14 through 15 is a verse here in reference to, has wine included, but other blessings from God. You cause the grass to grow for the livestock and plants for man to cultivate, that he may bring forth food from the earth and wine to gladden the heart of man. Okay. Super duper duper watered down beverages, they don't gladden your heart.
Yeah.
Right. But regular wine can uplift the spirits. It causes people are kind of celebratory. That's why they're drunk at weddings, which is it's Jesus' first miracle.
Yeah.
So don't be the kind of Christian that would try to correct Jesus.
Okay.
Hey, you should have picked a different first miracle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he was just making that jelly paste.
Right. Right. That jelly paste. So I'm not like if you can't and your conscience won't allow you to drink wine, I wouldn't bind your conscience.
Right.
But here's the principle that crosses into all beverages.
Yeah.
Is this. I think you violate this command if you drink your favorite beverage, like cream soda. I say cream soda is better. It's probably my favorite beverage. If you drink your favorite beverage without joy and gladness in your heart as a gift received from God with thanksgiving, you violate this command. He's telling you today, go eat, drink, celebrate life with these good things God's given you. It just so happens that back then, everybody, wine was like the favorite.
Right.
It's like the favorite national drink. It's kind of like Bud Light for America. You know what I mean? I feel like if they had baseball back in the day, you'd have like signs that are like Solomon's vintage wine. Vintage wine. you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it seems to be a drink that, I haven't done a history of wine, but it seems to be something that maybe is universal.
Probably. I had this is what people come here for, the life stories.
Yeah.
My first sergeant was, when I was in command, my battle buddy, Lukasik. He was in the first Gulf War. My dad barely missed that. I can't even remember the circumstances. It's like you were going to go, and then you didn't go, and then you got sent to Korea. But he went. He was a private, and he's like, we just sat out in the desert, and we were like, let's make some wine. So they dig a hole in the ground in the desert, and they get like the fruit that they had gotten from the mess hall area or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're out in the middle of nowhere about to launch rockets into Iraq. And these guys are fermenting wine in the middle of the desert. That's the American soldier, man.
Okay.
That's why we are unconquerable. Because the American soldier is more versatile, creative, unpredictable than anyone.
Yeah.
Just a little sidebar.
Okay.
Apparently, it's easier to make wine than I thought.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Instant wine. Instant desert
wine.
wine.
Desert heat wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can market that. Get some of that desert heat.
Yeah. I like how you connected this to the Lord's Supper.
Yeah.
And where we are given bread and wine as the symbol of Christ's death until he comes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then he says that he'll eat and drink with us again at the wedding supper.
Yeah, when he comes, when he returns. Yeah, we take the Lord's Supper. Sometimes it's very somber. It's time of self-reflection, but I don't know, man. I almost get the feeling when the early church celebrated, it was more like a party.
Yeah.
It was more celebratory. Do you ever get that feeling?
I think it can be both. I think that we remember our sin, and that can grieve us, but remember the gospel,
right?
And that shouldn't grieve us. That should lift us up and cause us to celebrate.
Right.
So I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it's like during our worship service, we have the corporate confession of sin, and the assurance of pardon. So it goes together, and we're reminded, and it should heighten our joy by remembering what God has done for us.
Yeah.
So in the Lord's Supper, we can start out in that somber, confessional mood. But if we stay there, then the wires have been crossed somewhere. We haven't connected the dots and seen we should have joy because what God has done for us in Christ, and we're partaking of bread and wine to remember that.
Yep, that's right. It's good. I couldn't help but think of it whenever I was just reading through these verses. So
yeah.
The fourth command is to enjoy. Go eat, drink, now enjoy the life with a wife whom you love. All the days of your vain life, meaning your short, fleeting life, your life's like a vapor, that he has given you under the sun. That's your portion in life, and the toil which you toil under the sun. So enjoy your wife.
Yeah.
So how many men do you think sin against God by violating this command?
Probably a lot.
A lot.
Probably a lot, yeah.
A lot, yeah.
I think all of these are reminders because I think we violate all of them.
Mm-hmm.
We live like we've got an infinite number of days. We eat without really tasting anything.
Mm-hmm.
We drink without enjoyment. We abuse the good things that God gives to us. And then we just kind of go through the routine.
Yeah.
We just live together.
Yeah.
We don't enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And I like how you've done this. You did it twice. In these imperatives, you talked about how, in light of the certainty of death and the unpredictability of death, stop being bitter towards each other and stop being unforgiving, and stop all the fighting. Like you don't have forever to live. Enjoy the wife that God has given to you.
Yeah. Don't pretend like you've got tomorrow. Don't let the sun go down in your anger is good advice, because tomorrow when you wake up, you might wake up having been blown away by a tornado.
Yeah.
And you wake up in the next world.
Yeah, right.
So don't do the things that you wish you could do or you hope to do. Like, do them now. So if you feel convicted that you haven't been good to your wife, well, start being good to her today.
Right.
And be kind to her.
And I think
enjoy her presence.
I think vice versa.
Yeah, of course, you can switch the roles.
I think you switch
The roles completely. Yeah, same thing for your husband. And I think, again, we need to remember all of the things he's commanding are things that were good before the fall happened, and they continue to be good things after the fall happened.
Right.
Eating, drinking, all these good things are to be enjoyed in the sphere God gives them. So even beyond just just companionship of it, God's given the gift of marriage for the enjoyment of sex. So I think, given Solomon's history of writing, this also is included. When he tells you enjoy your wife, enjoy your husband, only someone living in the correct covenant realm of marriage and relationship with God, with their spouse, may enjoy sex as God designed it, to have enjoyment free of shame and all of these things, to be enjoyed freely.
But you just scandalized everyone while you were preaching, because you're talking about wine and you're talking about sex. And
I know.
These are not things that proper Christians should talk about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We think the way that religious people, Christians, go is they tend to think that physical things are bad, spiritual things are good, but
we're Gnostics.
Yeah,
we live a Gnostic theology sometimes.
If God created a physical thing, it's good. Who are you to say that it's bad, or to say it's inappropriate,
right?
Or even to say it's inappropriate to talk about it in a tasteful way, right? It doesn't make you more spiritual to abstain from eating foods. It doesn't make you more spiritual to not drink. It doesn't make you spiritual to not be married. In fact, I didn't bring it out. This is one reason. You add this to the list of the reasons why I know the Catholic Church is not the Lord's church. They say this is not right, when God says it's right to enjoy your wife, and they say no, a priest should never be married. That makes them more committed to God.
Right.
Not the case. Not the case. To not enjoy your wife is to I think to sin against God, to take advantage of the things that He's given you that are good in the world.
Yeah.
You want me to read that quote?
It was a great quote. Yeah, it was a great quote. I need a printed copy of this quote.
Okay. Well, I grabbed it out of I can't remember what commentary it is. Ian Provan writes, so I think it was in the footnotes in a commentary. So I gotta have to buy this guy's commentary now. That's how your library grows.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, he referenced this guy. This quote is amazing. I need that commentary.
Yeah.
Ian Provan, which I don't have his commentary, but he wrote, there has always been within the Christian tradition an ascetic tendency, meaning like a monk lifestyle where you you afflict
yourself for higher spirituality.
Yeah. always been within the Christian tradition an ascetic tendency that understands true spirituality as involving the shunning of created things, e.g., food, wine, and sex, rather than the enjoyment of these things and thankfulness to God who has blessed us with them. So Solomon the preacher, he helps us see that this is not the case. The latter, what Solomon already has said, is true spirituality. That once you really get it, you're like, whoa, to really live in correct relationship with God, to be truly spiritual, I must enjoy the physical things that he's given me.
Right. And this is really complete opposite of what a lot of, at least Baptists, have traditionally taught.
Right. We made the joke about dancing on here, which there he is. There's the man who told the joke. There he is himself. He's right back here. You know, why don't Baptists?
Yeah.
Why don't they dance?
No, that was. You,
oh yeah.
You just messed up the joke.
I messed it up.
You need your dad to.
I need my dad to tell it.
You need your dad to tell
you
the
need to
joke.
get that microphone.
He don't want
to tell. He's not want to tell it. Yeah. The joke is, why don't Baptists have sex standing up? Because they're afraid it'll lead to dancing. And now you understand completely.
I wish we had a camera on him.
But it fits in perfectly with thinking that true spirituality means you don't have fun, you're not going to celebrate, you're never going to have parties, you're never going to dance, even with your own wife, because you think that's more spiritual.
I don't really remember ever hearing any sermons that reference or applied principles to the sexual relationship growing up.
Yeah.
It was just kind of this taboo topic, right? When I came to this church, the Constitution and bylaws had an article in the bylaws that said that we will abstain from partaking or working at a place that sells alcohol.
So nobody shopped at Walmart?
So it's like I told the deacons when we were going through it and revising it, we got to take this out because it's unbiblical for one thing, and it's unnecessarily burdensome on the members.
Like, where are you going to get your gas?
Where can you go? Where can you go out to eat? Like you can't shop anywhere now. What are we going to do? But even the Southern Baptist Convention has a big thing on their view of alcohol, and it's complete abstinence. You know, we go to. I always tell people that one of the cruel jokes of Southern Seminary is that you go to seminary in Kentucky, and you have to sign a thing that says you won't drink any alcohol.
Right.
And it's like, well, this is bourbon country, and can't even tour like
you're right there in
you
Kentucky.
can't even tour like a factory.
Yeah.
But it's this asceticism that it's just not found in the text. But I think that we do think that by afflicting ourselves by, we're in the world, but we're not of the world. So we feel like if we cut ourselves off from all of these things, that we're more spiritual,
right?
Instead of enjoying the good physical things that God has given to us in eating and drinking and sex within marriage,
right?
But you did have these two errors that we need to avoid, because this is what we do, and I think this is where I think a lot of Christians they err on one side to avoid the error on the other side, and what we need to do is we need to avoid both of these errors.
So the most common error you'll see in the church is to abstain from physical pleasure. Right. That's the way usually say the church goes that way,
or usually. at least not talk about it, right?
And then
what was did you tell the joke?
Which one?
Why do you bring two Baptists?
Oh yeah.
Fishing with you?
Yeah. That came from that guy over there. That's his other good one.
Also, yeah.
He had Baptist jokes back in the day. He did go to a Baptist seminary.
Yeah.
So, and they are accurate. That's what makes a good joke, right? It's got to be an element of accuracy in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you always take two Baptists fishing with you?
Yeah.
And the reason is because if you only bring one, they'll drink all your beer, showing that there's major hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hide it. They'll abstain. They'll abstain in public.
Right.
But so that's the way that often the people in the church err. They'll just abstain from physical things that God has given. But then the other error is that you see in the world, and it's the one Solomon. It's the way he went at first. And the error is pursuing physical pleasure as ends in themselves.
And this is where the abuses come from. And we could go back up to number 2. Eating is where gluttony comes from.
Mm-hmm.
You eat with that as the end in itself, so you abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
You drink as an end in itself, so it leads to drunkenness.
Mm-hmm.
You pursue sex as an end in itself, and we have all manner of sexual immorality that's rampant, not just in the world, but in the church, because we're pursuing those things as the end.
Mm-hmm.
They're the goal, instead of
That's right.
recognizing that these are good gifts from God, that God has given to his people, even though we don't deserve it. And they should be enjoyed within the confines of God's law.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Absolutely. So, yeah. You're going to avoid those and live a balanced life of enjoying the things God gives you to his glory. Whether you eat or drink, whatever you do to the glory of God. So Spurgeon is famous for saying that he would smoke a cigar to the glory of God.
Right.
In which case, everybody stroked out when they first heard it. You know what I mean?
Well, didn't he say that in response to some lady that was asking him how he could smoke that? How can you, a man of God, smoke a cigar?
Yeah.
And he said, I'll go home and smoke a cigar to the glory of God.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and then the fifth, so we have go, eat, drink, enjoy, do. The last one, do. Whatever your hands find to do it with all your might. There's no work or thought, knowledge, wisdom, and shield which you're going. So that reminder again, given that death is certain and unpredictable, get on with doing and living. Do. I said that the kids these days, they have this saying. It's called full send. Have you ever heard of that?
I hadn't heard it.
Full send?
No.
Now you're going to be saying it, right?
But doubtful.
I was like, where did this thing come from? Like, I got to look this up. If I'm going to tell the church people about this, it can't be like some bad thing.
Yeah.
It came from the extreme sports. So extreme sports like motorcycle racing or motorcycle jumping.
Yeah.
They do those tricks. So when a guy, he goes full send, maybe he does a huge jump and does a 360 or a flip or whatever. He went full send. And it seems to me that's what Psalm is saying. As the final one, whatever your hands find to do it with all of your might. It doesn't matter. Like, you're alive today, whatever you find yourself doing, maybe it's working wherever you work in whatever sphere you're to do it with all your might. Maybe you stay home with your children and you teach them, do it with all your might. Lifting weights, do it all your might. Take your wife out on a date. You better go all in on it and do it with all your might. Don't be, hey, we're on a date and I'm over here playing stupid phone games. Don't let me catch you slipping on your date with your wife. I might have to yeet your phone across the restaurant. You know what I mean? Date your wife with all your might. Sing songs to the Lord. This is one of my things that but you ever get those things that just bother you? I'll be honest.
Probably not as much as you do.
Sometimes I just want to be like, go over to a guy and be like, why are you singing like a baby? Like, let me hear it. Let me hear you belt it out. I don't care if you can sing or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why you come to church, man who loves the Lord, and sing like you don't love him?
Julia did say that she feels like the men around where we sit sing loud.
I think probably I was a little too hard on them, because I think if you sit closer, then you realize the men do sing louder.
I would say that out of all the churches I've been in, this one is the best congregation that sings.
Yeah. And I usually sit toward the back, and I don't really hear them as well, but I still want to hear more. I want to hear it more.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm jogging down the road, with the other soldiers, and we're singing songs real loud.
Yeah.
I want to hear the men sing like that in church.
Right. There's no reason why we can go to sporting events and yell and cheer and come to church and whisper.
Yeah, yeah. So do it. This is the last one. Do it with all your might, 100%, no hesitation. You have today. You're alive today. You get after living. I was kind of convicted by this when you read about Jesus in the Gospels. The Son of Man came eating and drinking. And you say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard. And I say, I don't think anybody would accuse me of that. Maybe I'm not living like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And not that by association. I'm saying, like, he's living, Jesus, knowing full well what's coming, was not sulking about.
Yeah.
He was living life to the full. And he said that's why he came. John 10:10. I came that you may have life and have it abundantly, or have it to the full. And you can't have life to the full. You can't even obey this if you're not in union with Christ.
Yeah.
If he's not your Lord and he's not your Savior.
Because you'll always be looking for these pleasures to grant you ultimate satisfaction.
Yep.
And joy. Instead of putting Christ where he's supposed to be.
I came that you may have life and have it to the full. Meaning, if you don't have Christ, no matter how good your life is, it's not as good as it could be. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, that's it. That's the whole deal. It's a death sandwich, but really, plot twist, it's a life sandwich. It's about living. The point is to live today, to go full send on life. That's it.
That's good.
There you go.
I would commend this sermon to you. If you haven't listened to it, go back and go to the Christ Fellowship Church website, and you can find this sermon. Right now, I think it's only on Facebook. The service is on Facebook. Hopefully, we'll get that sermon up soon, so you can listen to it. It was good. It was really good.
Appreciate it. Praise God. Yeah.
I mean, I had a smile on my face while we were singing the last song.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a needed reminder, because we can just walk through life just kind of morose and, I don't know, like you said, just kind of existing and not living. We need that reminder that Christ has come to bring us joy.
Yeah.
And it's not a joy that's found in these things as an end. It's joy that's found in these good things that God has given to us.
Yeah.
And we enjoy in Christ. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for preaching, and thanks for the conversation, and thanks for the recommendation of the cream soda. It was really good. Yeah. Well, if this has been beneficial for you, please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and we love to see our audience grow. We want to see more and more people joining in and watching or listening, and that happens by people sharing it. So please do so. And if you have any comments or questions, reach out. We'll do our best to answer those questions. And we will see you on Friday as we continue the conversation on the doctrines of grace. So until then, we'll see you next time.
I gotta pee so bad. Thanks, Dad.